26th of June, it's live Rumble 2. It's the best in white collar boxing, and it's coming at you live and exclusive on the KO Cup and Seconds Out. We are live from 6:45. You can't miss this. Okay, Peter, so this morning I wanted to look at the Fury Wilder 3 fight coming up. And the reason I wanted to look at it today is tomorrow there's a press conference in Los Angeles to officially announce the fight, give all the sort of details and everything else that's going to be happening. And it's surprising to imagine that this fight is only 40 days and 40 nights away, to get all biblical on you. It's just over 5 weeks. And there doesn't seem to have been too much noise about a fight of this magnitude. And I think the reason for that is we were all so excited and we were dragged out, thinking in anticipation for Fury Joshua. And when that was kind of snatched away from us, we were like, oh, right, okay, And then all of a sudden, Wilder was inserted, and now we've got, Usyk Joshua. And we were a bit like, well, okay, these other fights are happening. But these are fantastic, amazing fights. And I think we kind of lost sight of that in our disappointment. We need to refocus on that, because these are amazing fights in their own way. The Fury Wilder fight, which I'm going to talk about in detail in a minute, is a fascinating fight. Like I say, we've got Joshua Usyk all but confirmed now for September. That is a fascinating fight. I mean, two 2012 Olympic gold medalists going up against each other. Usyk having won the heavyweight in 2012 and Joshua the super heavyweight in 2012. So these are great fights. There's great supporting casts, really, with Ruiz and other fighters in the heavyweight division at the moment. And we've got those three kings up there, of Wilder, Fury and Joshua. And we haven't even talked about what's going to happen when Joshua and Wilder fight. And you've got to remember, we've got to put this in focus. I think this is a great heavyweight era, the post-Klitschko era that we're in now. And it's very difficult to see, an era when you're in it. We've got to remember, let's look back at the four kings in the 80s with Hearns, Hagler and Duran. That took 10 years to play out, that series of fights. So let's really enjoy where we are and look at, Fury Wilder 3. So we've got this coming up in 5 weeks' time. Like I say, the thing is, if we were in the previous two fights, they obviously fought in 2018. The first fight, they fought to a split draw. And, a lot of people thought Fury won that, but, he was down in the 7th and he was famously down in the 12th when he just beat the count by a sort of nanosecond. And in the rematch, it was kind of one-way traffic. He backed Wilder up and Mark Bruder threw the towel in 7. So that was in February 2020. Then we've had the pandemic, we've had this big layoff, and now we're coming back with Fury Wilder 3. So, it's interesting to look at this fight because I would say that out of their meeting, they've shared 19 rounds. And personally, I think Fury's won about 15 of those. So, you would look at this and maybe say, well, look, it's going to be, the third fight's going to be a sort of a rubber stamp, forgive the pun, it's a rubber match, of that. But I'm not too sure about that. And we've got to look at the characters and what's been happening with them, as they've come into this fight. So, because if you remember in the aftermath of the fight, Wilder made a lot of excuses. And it was the suit was too heavy, the gloves were tampered with. Mark Breland was got to and all this sort of stuff. Famously sacked Breland. Then he had a bit of radio silence after this. And then he's recently kind of come back online. He's got Malik Scott now has been elevated to head trainer. Jay Diaz, his former head trainer, is still in the camp, but he's not the head trainer anymore. And some of the stuff that we've been seeing on, working with Malik Scott on the pads looks kind of good to me. I've got to say, because the thing is Wilder, he's very wild. Again, pardon the pun. But, he comes in with these big winging shots. He looks a lot tighter on the pads. He looks like he's stepping round, and throwing those tight inside shots, which is what he will need to do with Fury. Fury smothers you. He will need to work tight inside and throw tight shots that he's not sort of winding up and showing you so much. So that looks quite good. But then on the other side, he's recently done a few interviews and he's talked about, again, he's got this way of saying things. He's talked about decapitating Fury. He wants to disfigure Fury so his mother won't recognize him. All this stuff. Where he's famously said before, I want a body on my record. In other words, I want to kill someone in the ring. He's said these kind of unsavory things and he's back to doing that now, which is kind of a bit more back to Wilder. But he also, on another Instagram live broadcast he did, reiterated all these things about, Fury's gloves were tampered with. They got to him with some juju juice. Breland was got to. It was all a setup. And, somebody like Wilder, in a way, needs to keep this invincibility mindset going. And the way he keeps that going is by saying, I didn't lose. I didn't get beaten up, which is what we all saw. Often when you listen, the few times that I've listened to Wilder speak since the Fury fight, it's either like the Fury fight never happened or like he's never watched it. There's no right, this is what I did wrong and this is what I'll do right in the next fight. It's more of this, and in a way, it's going to be great for him thinking, look, I didn't lose, I was cheated. And so, I'm just going to go in there and do my thing. And this time with a level playing field, I will win. But, you also got to say there's a certain amount of reality distortion in there. If he doesn't accept his failings from the first fight, he's going to repeat them in the second fight. But having said that, like I say, when he's always got that punch, he's always got that equaliser. He knows he can hurt Fury with that if he lands it. And also, like I say, he does seem to be working on some different things from Alex Scott. He's got to know that Fury's going to come in and back him up. And when you saw the second fight, it really reminded me of, there have been murderous punchers around in the past, obviously. I mean, Edison Miranda, famously in the middleweight division, was a murderous puncher, knocking everybody out. And then Kelly Pavlik came along and backed him up. He pushed him back, and all of a sudden the guy couldn't punch with the same power and ferocity he had when he was stalking people who were afraid of him going away from his punches. Similar with Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. When Evander Holyfield pushed Tyson back, Tyson seemed to lose that power that he had. The problem is you've got to walk to the murderous puncher and walk kind of through their punches to back them up. But that's exactly what Fury did with Wilder, and he just seemed to take away his power, and his balance and everything else. So you've got to say that you think, well, Fury's probably going to do the same again. He's got the same training team. He's got Sugar Hill Stewart and Andy Lee in the corner. So, you've got to wonder, is he just going to try and go exactly for a repeat of the second fight? And, Bob Arum is saying, I think he's going to finish it sooner. So, we've got to see what's going to happen. But I think Wilder is going to be very dangerous in this fight. He's got to have thought about this. Alex Scott, although he does seem to be forming a bit of a yes man thing in these interviews I've found, he's just a smart guy. He probably knows what they've got to do. It's whether Wilder can execute it. He's quite strategically smart. But so also for Wilder, this is kind of, forgive my language, shit or bust. If he loses this third fight, his stock is going to go way down. So he's really got to pull something out of the bag in this fight to redeem himself from the second fight and kind of give some justification to him saying the second fight was an anomaly, it was a flash in the pan, the playing field wasn't level, all this sort of stuff. So he's got to come up with something in this fight. So that makes it really exciting. And I think he is always a dangerous fighter. The other thing to play in, to factor in, is I've said that Wilder's got the same training team. That Fury's got the same training team, and that in a way he only needs to do the same thing he did in the second fight to win. But we're not really sure in a way where Fury is, because obviously after the second fight, he spent so much time in America. He's almost seen as an American, a Las Vegas fighter now. And Big John Fury, his dad, has sounded off a few times about what happened with the negotiations with the Joshua fight. He's saying, I don't really see Tyson anymore. Tyson is in America, surrounded by yes men, jetting off here, jetting off there, signing fight contracts in big razzmatazz. He's not in the gym training. He's not putting a dedication in that he needs to. And so really, we also know that Fury, as he's often talked about and has kind of made his name, his mental state can vary a bit. And to be honest, I don't think anybody in that bubble, it's not a good place for anybody's mental state. So, we got to say in a way that Fury could beat Fury. If he doesn't take Wilder seriously, if he doesn't see him as a threat, and also if he gets distracted by this incredible world of private jets and superstardom that he's in at the moment, that could become a factor, that could come into play. So, but this is all plays out in, like I say, it's hard to believe, in just over 5 weeks' time at the T-Mobile Arena in Los Angeles. ESPN and Fox are televising it. It will be live on pay-per-view over here. So, I think it's an absolutely fascinating fight. And we also got to look back a bit. Fury does very well in rematches. If we look back at the John McDermott fight, he fought twice. The first one was nip and tuck. The second one was a shutout. The first fight with Chisora was very close. The second fight was a shutout. He works you out in rematches. He's got a really good boxing brain. And obviously, we look at the Wilder rematch, and as we just went through, it was a very different scenario in the second one. But Wilder has also done okay in rematches, against Steve Arena and stuff like that. So, not to the same extent that Fury has. But, he's really got to work out a different strategy, a different game plan for this with his different, head trainer, Alex Scott. So I think it's going to be interesting. Obviously, there's no need to say that I'm leaning towards Fury because, it looks very much like, Wilder has got the mountain to climb to me. And like I say, Fury has pretty much got to do what he's already done. And also, the problem with going into these immediate rematches is there's got to be, although we've talked about Wilder trying to psychologically assuage those self-doubts, through saying that the fight was rigged. When you're standing in that corner and it's all very real again, you've had no interim rebuild fights, you've had no knockouts to build your confidence, all of a sudden you're standing facing exactly the same man who absolutely, knocked you around the ring last time. Psychologically, that's very difficult. And especially if Fury comes out, as I imagine he will, and tries to do exactly the same thing. In other words, tries to stick it right on Wilder. How is Wilder going to react to that? Is it going to be that you know, his brain is going to kind of scream out, it's happening again, and almost capitulate. I don't know. It's going to be fascinating to see. Like I say, the heavyweight scene is very much alive. I think we've got to stop, you know, sort of the sackcloth and ashes over the loss of the Josh fight. It'll happen. And the heavyweight scene is alive. There's great supporting characters. These three kings have got to fight it out. It's brilliant. And we go into the next stage of this era on July 24th with Wilder 3 at the T-Mobile Arena. And I can't wait. It's going to be brilliant.